Hi everyone, Carmo Sullivan here, Heart to Heart Medium. Today I'm getting to the heart of the matter with Sallie Clark. And I believe I've met you almost 20 something years ago.
Probably.
Yeah. And
Been here a long time.
I love energy and I love people's energy. And I knew I liked, how you came across. You've been in politics for a long time in the small world of Colorado Springs. And I'm really excited about having you here today because I believe in strong womanhood and supporting women in our field, in our networks. And you're running for mayor, is that correct?
I am.
Yes.
I certainly am.
So I want to introduce Sallie and let her do it because I think you'll do a better job than I do. And why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got here, etc.
Yeah, well, I guess from a standpoint of being involved in my community, my husband and I moved here back in 1985, and we restored a Victorian house that was getting ready to be torn down. And so that was kind of our first jump into operating a small business. So we started a bed and breakfast over on the west side, and we saw Colorado City was just coming into its revitalization.
It's true.
And we thought this is a great opportunity to kind of get in on the ground and be able to do that. And so he was leaving the Navy. He liked being home more than he liked being out to sea. And we moved here, and I opened a bed and breakfast inn, and he found a real paying job working in the defense industry. And we opened the Holden House in 1986. So we spent a year doing restoration work and got all our approvals through the city, and then opened in 1986. And we still have the Holden House today, although we've added 2 more buildings. We have 3 side-by-side Victorians, so we've restored 2 more Victorians. Plus, we have another house that's adjacent to it that we essentially rebuilt because it was a 1940s house that wasn't in the greatest of shape. So it's been, I think, just a labor of love. And I was very involved in the tourism industry. I love this community. I've always loved this community. And I think, as your program talks about the heart of it, the beauty of the Pikes Peak region is where my heart is. And my dad grew up in Pueblo. I always spent every summer on the farm in Pueblo with my dad and my grandma. She had a chicken farm down in Pueblo. And so I saw so much of Colorado, and Colorado Springs just was always in my heart.
Well, it's funny because Colorado Springs, I moved here in 1992, so not too much farther past 85. I knew this was going to be my home, and I'll die with my socks on here, quote unquote. It is a beautiful town, and I call it still a town, but it's gotten to be a little bit bigger than that since we moved here. And I would like to know a little bit more, too. I mean, starting a bed and breakfast, that's a brave jump.
Yeah. Well, I've always loved hospitality. Before I came, I was a medical office manager. I did medical billing. I did patient care. I did lab work, all those things. So, but I worked with cancer patients. So, and in hematology and oncology. And really, I think I just got really burned out on, we did an important job. I worked for a female doctor. I was her first employee. And so she was a great mentor to me as another woman. And then, but I decided I wanted to do something different. And I've always loved hospitality. I think as many of us have done, we maybe worked in restaurants when we were going to school and growing up. And
I did too.
I was at Marie Callender's girl, did all that, and ate too much pie, I think, at that time.
You what, if I worked at Marie Callender's,
But as I got to be older, I thought, I just want to change. I want to greet people. I want to make them happy. I want to fill that part of my life with joy. And this seemed like the perfect fit. So
you have a great energy with people. First, I like to talk energy a little bit, but I feel that you're a connector, and you connect to people. And I think probably the success of your place is how people feel when they're in your home, and it really is a home too. Your bed and breakfast.
It is, and I have really great people who work for me, and trying to instill I think that part of, if it's not me, they do the fill in. So it
Right.
keeps me fresh and active and still wanting to be with guests, but they really fill that void too in terms of me not having to be, on call all day long,
'Cause that
24
would
hours a day, because it is.
It would wear you out.
And so while they use a lot of my recipes and they really do, my staff really gives the same hospitality, and we see comment cards that I got one yesterday of, how warm and fuzzy people felt about staying at the Holden House. And that was due to one of our staff members, Miriam, who was just very attentive. And so, it's a fine line you walk between attentiveness and giving folks their privacy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think what they get with us, which you don't find at an Airbnb or a vacation rental, is you get that personalized service.
I love that. Those are the places I look for when I go away. And with that, you've been doing this for a long time. So you've been very successful. That's what it feels like, and taking on more. I feel that you have a lot of ingenuity, insight, and management skills for sure. When I met you, I think you were just starting to decide to go into politics. What made you go decide that decision?
Well, it's funny because in my bed and breakfast life, we were planning a holiday home tour to benefit the Old Colorado City Historical
Love home
Society.
tours.
And it was like a holiday tour, and we were meeting at my neighbor's house across the street, and she had a little one-room bed and breakfast. And we had a knock on the door from a reporter from the Gazette who said, well, the fire chief and the city manager want to close your fire station. What do you all think? And there were about 6 of us sitting around the table, and we said, oh, well, we don't think that's a good idea. And really knowing not a whole lot about it.
I remember that. Because that was a big deal back then.
It became a big deal.
Big deal.
And what happened with that is I was sort of injected into the public spokesperson of, well, somebody needs
Save
to
our
be
firehouse.
talking. Yeah, save our fire station 3. And so all of a sudden I developed really good relations with all of the media folks, and they were truly helpful on the neighborhood side of not wanting to close fire station 3. And somehow I ended up in front of the camera a lot, and people got to know me. And so, and we saved the fire station. We talked about response times, and we were an older part of town, having
older
homes. A lot of elderly
Yes.
live in our neighborhood. We had a mom who stepped forward whose son had been saved by the local firefighters. And so it just became a huge neighborhood issue. We organized rallies, and we went before city council on a very regular basis. And so that's really what propelled me into it. And I thought to myself, why am I sitting back? I think I can do better than these people on the council.
I love that. That's what gets a woman off her seat and gets her
right.
running and toward the direction she's supposed to be in.
I have good friends who have been other, whether county commissioners or city council members or whatever stage, and usually it's something that drives us more from the heart and more personally. And I'm not saying that men don't bring that same passion to the table, but I think women just approach it different. Maybe it's a road project where a child has gotten injured on a highway or a roadway, or maybe it's something else, a development that happens that they're passionate about. But I think that something drives us from within.
What's funny is because I always talk about the heart. That's my big thing, and staying in the heart center. And I think women are guided, and I'm not saying men are not, but women are more driven to come to the heart first, to find passion. And men use their logic and come slowly into the heart. But I feel when we walk into our heart center and know this is something we need to do, we just go do it, where the men kind of just go forward. And for me, my projects have always been passion projects. And if I'm not passionate, it won't happen.
And I think sometimes we're more intuitive. We just have this sort
Word
of
I love.
sixth sense that I look within sometimes. And I know the facts and figures are important, and all of that
Logic, of
data
course.
and the logic and the piece of it. But there's also, I think, an intuition that makes us feel this doesn't feel right, or this does feel right. And
We lean into it.
Yeah. And I think it makes us really good in terms of running and working with people.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than, I think that we just have a different style. And I was always really growing up, I was very shy. But I think what happens is somebody said, you're not shy anymore. And I looked at myself and said, yeah, you're absolutely right. Because we tend to get over that because we see that goal of what we need to do in order to get to that next step.
It was funny because I was very shy growing up, and now I'm an extrovert. I'm introvert, extrovert, but I'm very much, I don't mind being in front of, like you said, cameras. But Sallie, I find that you have such good power, good energy, and so you got into politics. What was the first thing you did that you ran for?
Well, first I decided I was going to, right out of the box, run for mayor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I decided
brave.
the mayor's race was coming up, and so I was going to run for mayor. My council seat hadn't yet become up for election. So I jumped in, and I had some good counseling from some folks that some may remember Mayor Bob Isaac, who served in this community a very long time, Mayor Bob. And Mayor Bob kind of helped me and guided me along the way. I jumped in, but it became a three-way race and extremely polarizing, and I didn't win. But what I learned from that, and I still got 17,000 votes. I think I'm at a budget of about $10,000 to $15,000 running for mayor. I was only a couple thousand votes behind the next candidate, and
That's
then
really amazing.
the current mayor got reelected. But what it told me was, I can do this. And look, 17,000 people thought I could be mayor of Colorado Springs. So again, and I think it's about not giving up. I think that's also what drives us. And it's hard sometimes when you lose a race because you think,
all that energy.
They didn't like me, or why didn't they like me? But at the same time, you have to look at the good side of it. Is a lot of people did, and a lot of people had faith in you. It makes us stronger. I think it's good role model for kids to see that even if you don't succeed the first time, you keep going. I mean, not everyone can win the first time, and maybe you don't win a lot of times.
And I think also when you don't get to win, or, I'm not going to call it a failure because it wasn't, but what it does is through that experience, you grow your soul bigger.
You do.
And without having some pratfalls, you're not going to be who you are. So that probably gave you a little bit more pizzazz, I'll call it. And also, the chutzpah to run again.
Name recognition helped, and then what happened was I was supposed to run in an unoccupied seat, and they changed the lines and redistricted, and so I ended up running against another incumbent who was also a woman, and I just stepped forward and said I can do this, and I won by almost 70% of the vote against her. So
for a city council,
for a city council race, and then I became a city council member. Yeah.
How long were you in city council for?
I was just on for 2 years, and then I had the mindset that I was going to run for mayor again because the mayor was term limited, and there were 4 of us who ran on city council. It was Jim Null and Lionel Rivera and Teddy Spurn. And we all ran. Yeah. And then there was a cast of another 4 or 5 people who also stepped forward. So I didn't win that race. But then the county commissioner opening came up, and somebody said, Sallie, you still got the yard signs. You're so good. We really need you on the county side. And so I ran for county commissioner, and again, ended up in a primary, got through the primary pretty significantly, and then ended up being a longtime county commissioner. So, the Lord, and I think it brings us in a certain direction, and sometimes we don't know what that direction is. Yeah. But I think it's trying not to be discouraged by things that happen that you may see as bad. But when I was on council, as the council members are now, you get paid $6,250 a year to be on council.
And a lot of time
a county commissioner, I started my salary, I think it was about $64,000. So I thought, well, when I look at the job, thank goodness I didn't win. And I ended up being a county commissioner and served as a county commissioner for 12
How many
years.
12 years?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I've heard always wonderful things about you from people I know in the community of how you were very fair on the county commission side and also on the city council side. And you had a bigger perspective. And what I love too is you spoke your truth. So tell me about a story or something that you had to struggle with in city council or in your other position that you really struggled with and how you had to come around it.
I think one of the things that I point back to in terms of being on the county commission was when the Waldo Canyon fire happened. And, I'd gotten started over saving Fire Station 3. And then all of a sudden we have this massive wildfire in our backyard. And we'd already seen the Hayman fire and what that did, but it wasn't quite so close to us. And then what happened as a result is, I basically was on the ground all the time at the incident command post, trying to keep people informed. Social media was just starting. Twitter, and I started tweeting and I had no idea what I was doing. I was just providing information, and the media somehow was following me. And I was like, wow, this is an interesting way to communicate. But, after that, and as we watched all those homes go up in flames
one of the worst
across
days in our city.
We were up at Coronado High School, and you could see what was happening kind of in the neighborhood where it
saw
came
the homes
up. The
just
flume was coming
5
up.
seconds, a home would be gone. You just see the big plume and boom,
And
gone.
so then after that, we set up essentially a recovery center, and all I did was greet people on the way in and let them know whether their homes were standing or not, and gave a lot of hugs and cried a few tears with them. And then we had the floods that happened in Manitou Springs right after that, and that was all part of my commissioner district. So from all the way to Mountain Shadows, all the way down to Manitou and Green Mountain Falls and that area where Highway 24 kept getting closed. I said, I have to put together a recovery group so that all these dollars that are coming in from the feds and the state are managed properly. So we put together a collaborative regional recovery group for Waldo Canyon so that we could coordinate those resources and fight for our dollars from the federal government.
First off, that was a very devastating fire, devastating flooding afterward. It's one of my strongest memories of living here. And it felt like it was cataclysmic that day, like we were in hell.
Yeah.
And hate to say that, but it felt like that. It was scary. And I think, the fire could have jumped 25. That's the other thing I was saying, too. I was worried about the whole town. And you dealing with that. You had all those people, all those emotions around you, loss, fear, displacement, and you came through it.
Well, I think everybody did as a community.
We gathered. That was big.
And I know that the mayor had stepped up and the city had stepped up, and the county commissioners that I served with were very understanding. Mm-hmm. They knew that I wasn't necessarily at every commissioner meeting because I was doing other things, trying to help people. And, I went to Capitol Hill and marched into quite a few of the congressional offices and said, here's what we need, and tried to put together a presentation that they could understand of what we needed and why we needed it.
So once again, you were thrown into a hard situation, and through that darkness, you grew your strength in your voice.
Yeah, you do. And I have good parents that I think instilled, I'm one of the lucky ones that when they came to passing out parents, I ended up with 2 winners. Aww. So both my mom and dad were very supportive.
I love that.
In terms of who I was as a child. And even though I was shy, my mom always kind of pushed me forward and said, you can do this. And a dad who, was just is amazing still.
I love that. Well, I think parents, when you have a good set of parents, and I grew up with 2 parents. My mom was a little challenging, but my dad was my backbone. And between the 2 of them, they were my best teachers, so I get that. Mm-hmm. So you're now starting another run for mayor.
I am. Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited for you. I really hope that people see your energy and feel you and understand who you are and what you'll do for Colorado Springs. So maybe why don't you kind of talk about what you see in the future for Colorado Springs, if you were mayor, how you would handle things and what you would like to make changes or, shifts.
Well, and I think that we're in a good place, and I think that the current mayor has done a really good job. And, and we've had some tough times with health, COVID, and what we've all dealt with in terms of whether that's the business community or personally. But I do think we're at a crossroads here. I think the economy's slowing. We're looking, we see a lot of problems on the street. When I talk to folks, what I hear from them is that they're concerned about homelessness. They want somebody who's tough, but they also want that compassionate piece of it. Affordable housing is becoming really very, very scarce, and we need to define really what we're talking about in terms of affordable housing. The safety, the crime issue is when you call 911, do you want to be put on hold for when something's happening? And I think that we have positions that are available for new police officers. However, we can't seem to fill them. We're still about 70 people short of filling those positions. So I think there's got to be more of an effort to really recruit and keep them here. And how that happens, I want to get in there and really roll up my sleeves. I've also served at the executive level at the state for the federal government, actually working for U.S. Department of Agriculture and Secretary Sonny Perdue in rural development, which is economic development in small rural communities throughout the state. And over the period of time that I served there, we did $1.3 billion worth of support for rural Colorado. And I managed 7 offices around the state. So I have that executive leadership. I've got the understanding of both city and county governments and understand how the federal government works, which doesn't make sense sometimes, I think, for all of us. But it is really, I think, important in terms of the unique perspective and the unique experience that I bring to the table, which I don't think any of the other candidates have. That federal and local and business experience, running my own business, writing a paycheck, keeping employees, employed, and understanding all of those, how we have to pay taxes and the things that come to be when you run a small business.
I think it's so important to have many hats to wear, and you've worn many, many, many. I think it's important, too, that our city has a strong mayor, which I think you'd be very strong and knowledgeable and fearless. I like that. I like fearless. And I think the heart is really important. I know you have a big heart for this city.
Well, I love this city. I love the people in this city.
Yeah, I do too.
When they come here, I was talking to someone with regard to our visitors bureau the other day, and they said, why do your guests come here? And I said, the first thing they want to do is go see Pikes Peak and Garden of the Gods. I mean, they come here because of our beauty, and we need to make sure we preserve that. We take care of it. We are good stewards. General Palmer trust aside, he wanted to make sure that our parks and open spaces remain open spaces, and we've got to carry on that legacy, but we also have to take care of that legacy.
Yeah.
We can have a lot of open space, but if we don't manage it and we allow the trash to pile up and the weeds and we just need to really look at our city and create a long-term plan for development so that we develop well and we have opportunities for everyone to have the American dream, which I believe is to own a house and a yard for the kids and the dog and I really believe in that wholeheartedly.
I do too. I feel I worry about the youngest generation coming forward, how hard it's going to be for them to own a house. And if we can become smarter in having affordable housing, super important. Great jobs. I know there's a lot of good jobs coming here, I think. This town has such a calling because it has the beauty. It has, we're against the mountains. Denver can't even speak to what we have. And people come here and they see Denver and they come to Colorado Springs and they're going, I love this town. My guests come and they're going, I can't believe it. And there's so much to do here and see.
And so many free things. My husband and I came on our honeymoon in 1980. And my dad had grown up in Pueblo, so my grandma had a farm in Pueblo. And I came every summer as a kid, but we spent our honeymoon here. And what we love so much, I think, about Colorado Springs is that you're in a city where you have arts and culture. You
Yeah.
can go to the Pikes Peak Center, the World Arena.
Right.
You can go see some great music. You can do all those cultural things at the Fine Arts Center and arts and culture. But at the same time, you can also take a quick trip and go up to North Cheyenne Canyon and go sit along the creek and have a picnic.
Yes.
And it doesn't cost you
It's
anything
free.
else. It's free because it's a city park that's open to the public, or take a picnic and go to Garden of the Gods or whatever. But you can get out of the city quickly while you live right in the city.
That's
Yeah.
exactly true, because we have these things right smack dab, these beautiful red rocks that jut up out of this area right in the middle of the city. And it's almost like a Magritte painting. It doesn't look real almost. And I love going to the Garden of the Gods. It's inspiring to be there. And what I love about this place is you have biking trails, hiking trails, dog trails. We're very dog friendly too.
Dog
You can hear my
parks.
dog in the background.
right.
He's not friendly right now because he's locked up.
One of my projects was the dog park at Bear Creek when I was a
Yay.
county commissioner, and
I love that. I used to go there all the time.
And I drive by there all the time, and I mean, you can't
Very.
even get a spot in the parking lot
no.
right now.
Well, it's amazing because we do have these beautiful hiking trails throughout the city, all around. Anybody who comes here to visit wants to live here usually, or wish they did. We are very blessed. And I feel with your knowledge, your past experience in both city council and in county commissioners, that you could be a fabulous leader, strong mayor. And, the city needs a heartfelt person too. Because, there's a lot of struggle here too with the homeless.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother detail. And I think that you would be the best person. I feel that in my heart. That's why we're talking today.
Thank you. Well, and I think the homeless issue is really, really complicated, and there's no easy answer. But I think there's a lot of cities that have done a good job that we could take components and then push them together for our own model that works for us.
I love that.
You've got addiction as part of it, mental health is part of it. Families who just are on the edge, who are living on the edge of homelessness, that just need a little bit of a hand up. And so you really have to separate those different groups to be able to figure out how to help them. And we have so many nonprofit agencies, but we can't just pile everything on top of them and say, it's your problem, deal with it. The mayor's got to be the catalyst, has to be the convener to say, not only are we going to come up with a plan, but we're going to make a difference. We don't want to be known like Denver is as the worst place in America to raise a family. We want to be the best place to raise a family.
Denver used to be a nice place.
And it did. And that's gone up in terms of their homeless population. And I know the mayors have tried to figure it out, but I think we have to take this head on, and we have to be tough. We have to be compassionate, but we also have to be innovative on how we solve it.
Exactly. Innovative, I think, is the key too, because we have to think a little differently. And there's so many components to it too. It's very complicated.
And the thing that I think I can bring to the table as well is not only my work working as a county commissioner, but I served as the president of the National Association of Counties, and we formed an opioid task force to look at the opioid epidemic that was hitting America and try and come up with some solutions. But in addition to that, I think just having that background in human services, when I was a county commissioner, I was the liaison to Department of Human Services. So Dan May, the district attorney at the time, and I stepped up when we seen too many child fatalities and established an initiative called Not One More Child, that not one more child should die of child abuse and neglect. And while it was a very, I think, aggressive look at how we could do that, we really developed an educational campaign, and it made a difference. And I think we can make a difference in this community, but we have to be strong and we have to be tough. At the same time, we have to have that compassion and heart for serving our public and serving the people of Colorado Springs.
I feel there's so many different issues we could talk about today, and the family, and like we just said about child abuse, and that's breaks
And my
heart.
mom was, before she married my dad, was in sort of a domestic violence situation. And in the 1950s, she took the kids and said, I'm not going to do this anymore. She was very lucky that she married somebody like my dad, who adopted all of the three kids that I grew up with. And then I came along as the latecomer and was born on her birthday, her 35th birthday.
I love that.
Yeah. But she was a woman that stepped forward and said, I'm going to do this differently. I'm not going to let my kids be hurt by this. And it took a lot of guts for her to do that. And I never even realized that until years later, when she was very involved in a local charity called Interval House that helped battered women. And she shared a lot of why she'd gotten involved in that. And passion drove her. So passion drives, I think,
you have the
all
same
of us.
backbone, I believe, because I feel that. And women, again, when they can step into the heart and with their passion for change, I think the world will change. And we're all connected, as you know. And I feel that you are very connected to a lot of people, and you've experienced a lot of situations. And I think you'll do a fabulous job. So I hope people watch this podcast today and come to their heart and see you as that strong mayor I think I see you as. Is there anything else you want to share today?
No, I guess I would say, from a standpoint of women leaning in, when you see something that needs to be done, I think sometimes we do step forward. But sometimes in politics, we see all the sort of ugliness and the fighting in the background. Yeah. But if we don't step forward, then no one's going to do it for us.
No.
We have to have the courage to step forward, to step out of your shyness or whatever it may be, and connect with people. And I really do. I mean, I see so many strong women in this community, strong women and men. And my husband's a strong man who supports me from the background.
Exactly.
And he has no desire to be in the middle of politics. And sometimes I have to calm him down when he gets upset about people who say things about me. But at the same time, he's always there in the background saying, you go, girl, you get out there and make a difference. And he's that supportive nature from kind of behind the scenes.
Well, and it's funny because you do build a thick skin, because not everybody is going to like you. And that's what I know for sure, because it's okay. It's not about me. It's about them. And it's okay. Still sending them love. But, it's funny because I think as women today, the more we can support each other and like you're doing, supporting the community, this community will be fabulous. And sorry about my dog. He just loves to bark. Charles Barkley is his name. But, I feel the connection is important. And that's what I work in. Like, as people know me, I'm a kind of a spiritualist. And I believe it's all about connection. And I do believe that we all have to work together to create a better life for each other and see the world in a different way, in the heart center. And, the ego likes to drive us, but our heart is always knowing where to go.
And I think sometimes women can be harder on women than men are.
Yes.
So I hope that through some of this discussion, we look to supporting other women to step forward and to see those that have leadership skills, to mentor them to say it's okay. Come
with us. Come with us and help us.
And as a woman who's run, multiple times for public office, understanding that sometimes it does get kind of mean.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You just have to look beyond it and stay focused. And
it's sometimes it's ugly, and thick skin is really important. And I hope this election is going to be there's going to be a few people in it, but I think you will do just getting the word out.
Great. Well, I love this quote that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And
that too.
Maybe going back to my recipe list, I prefer to establish the menu rather than to be on it.
Exactly. So. I think I'll take that as a quote. I'm going to keep too, because I'm a cook. I'm a home chef. I was at one point, and it's funny, but definitely I like to lead. And I definitely want to make the menu, not be the menu.
Well, and if you don't step forward, others will make decisions for you.
Exactly. That's whenever I step forward is about, I didn't like how those decisions were made, so therefore I'll wear their shoes and see how it feels.
Right,
And see
right.
what I can do to make a difference. On that note, I wanted to say thank you so much.
you.
I think
Thanks,
you're
Carmen.
amazing, and I had no idea how many things you have done in your lifetime. You've got a lot of knowledge in your bag and connections in your bag. And with that, I'm going to be a big cheerleader for you, and I will.
Thank you.
Yeah. And on that note, I just thank you for taking time out today to talk to me on my lovely Heart to Heart podcast, Getting to the Heart of the Matter. And coming up, I'm going to have 2 more podcasts coming out, which will be Sallie, another wonderful person, and I think you're going to enjoy them. And I look forward to seeing how you do.
Thank you.
You're
I feel
welcome.
really good about this. And, no matter how it comes out, I know I'll do the best job that I can. And I hope that that's working for the folks in Colorado Springs and
Yeah.
making sure that I bring my unique perspective and experience to serve the citizens as mayor of this city.
Yeah, I think I can see that. I love it. And I'm going to wish you the best of luck. And I don't think you're going to need luck. I think you've got a lot of drive on this.
Thank you.
And on that note, I'm going to say thank you for all listening. And come watch my podcast. It's all about coming to the heart, being strong, and conquering the trials and tribulations of your day, because they're just helping you grow your soul. On that note, Carm out.